say this all the time, Adam. This is my favorite question, and it's interesting how you talked about your grandfather, I believe, before
Yeah.
my grandfather, who was from Kiev, and my mother and whatnot, and had an accent, and he used to take me for walks in the park in Montreal when I was 5. And one time I asked him, I called him Zeta. I said, Zeta, how do you know all these people? And he said to me, well, one day when we were walking, I smiled at somebody and he came over and smiled back at me. And you mentioned smiling and to me
Right.
also. And then another person saw us smiling with each other and came over and smiled and said, hey, to us too. And as a 5-year-old, it even hit me, wow, this is cool in a way
Yeah.
and stuff. So when you talked about him before, that was my first influencer. And, sometimes people come in a second as influencers and sometimes over a lifetime, and we have a lot of them. But if you can share two or three people that have been influencers in your life, that'd be great.
Sure. So I mentioned it in our earlier conversation. My great grandpa Jack was the a real jumping off point and inspiration for WuF Shanti for the character, but then also all the original mantras of why we started WuF Shanti. I mentioned smile and the world will smile with you, which is I believe what you're talking about there, and he was just such a he wasn't a yoga teacher, but he was a yogi off the mat. He was a yogi at heart. That's what we like to say in our house here. And so he had that that energy. He was always kind to everybody, and I think that was just really for me at a young age. Just I think something I've stuck with me and stayed with. To always try to be kind to people. Always try and be the light in the room. My grandpa Alan, Jack's son, who also passed away. But he also was a huge inspiration for me. And really, after he passed away, a real inspiration from that point going forward. I remember, we talked about the TED Talk earlier, and that was the last trip I actually got to take with him.
Well,
And so that was my freshman year of high school, and it wasn't at home. We had to fly, and he was so excited. He helped me practice every day after school, and I remember when I gave the talk, he was front and center. And not only was he front and center in the first row, so when I looked down, I'm scanning the audience, and I'd see him right there, but he was mouthing the words back to me. Like, he knew it. He knew it because of how much he was there and helping me.
that's
Yeah.
like
So
singing along.
oh yeah. It was seriously. It was like he knew all the words to a song, and it was hilarious. But he was there, and that was just a big support system, inspiration for me. I have this story in the book, but I think it just kind of speaks to who he is. Always a positive person, and I remember he was dealing with his battle with cancer, and I went to his house to visit him, and we wore masks before masks were a thing, for safety. And I remember we were sitting outside, and he pulled out his phone and he's scrolling through his notes app, and he started giving me driving tips. I was not 16; I was turning 16, and he was giving me driving tips, and I was like, why? I was like, what? I'm not turning 16 yet. Like, and he's like, no, but you're gonna start driving soon, by yourself and stuff. These are important things to know. And asked him, how can you be so positive right now? How can you be so happy right now, with everything going on? And he said, well, I've tried to be happy, but it's really hard to be positive all the time. So I try to get to neutral, which was a really poignant lesson for me, and something that I think is really important in this day and age. We're like, oh, I can't be happy 100% of the time. I don't want to be sad either. Uh, how can I find that balance? And it's neutral. I'm going to be okay. And it's sometimes you got to know it's okay to not be okay. And so for the book especially, that was Grandpa Allen was a big lesson.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
In this whole journey, get to neutral, which I think is really really cool. And obviously, I mentioned both my grandparents, but I need to mention my parents, because
What are
obviously,
you gonna get cut off if you don't mention
yeah,
them?
obviously, none of this would have happened without my family and the support of my parents driving me everywhere and helping with literally everything. Both my parents working behind the scenes and doing a lot of stuff, but my mom is, runs the day to day everything, and fills me in on everything, and has through the process of when we first started it, and writing the first book, and to where we are today. It's a lot of them and a lot of my mom, and so it's been a really cool journey. So if I know I and when we talk about when you think of the word influencers now, you think of celebrities and people on social media, but these three people are four people really big influences in my life today.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thanks a lot for sharing that. It's really, really special, really important. Appreciate that.
Thanks. Yeah, of course.